Standard Bank. It can be.
Asinibingelele maswahla mahle namhla ekseni elisukwini ngelelikhulu ku calendar ku national calendar yelive la kaNgwane lapho ke sibheke ukuthi ke kutheke mathudane kuloke ilanga lalomuhla njengoba ke 18 kuyo ke inyanga yendlovana loyo ke le indvuna yelitiko ke letemafa umhlonishwa Neal Rijkenberg ethule ke maphakelo ke etimali eminyaka wanga 2022 kuya ke ku 2023 lokho kubaluleke kakhulu maswahla mahle kakhulu kati ke njengoba siyathi lokuthi kuncane lokwentekako ke eveni angekethulwa ke lamaphakelo noma ke kunjalo siyathi ukuthi amaphakelo ke aloke live aqhamuka ke esigabeni lapho khona ke ingwenyama inkosi Mswati wesithathu kuba ngiyo ke leyenda ke sendvulelo sekuthi ngotiphi ke tinsaye ya live lelibhekene nato nalapho khona kumbe kuyafuna ukuthi ke ema resources live lelinawo liwa prioritize kumbe ke atawukhona ukuthi akhulumise leto tidzingo live lelinato nekusikhomba ema opportunities lapho singagcinisa kakhulu khona sihlanyele ke imali khona nalapho kumbe ke kunetinsaye njengoba ke ngisho tindzabeni tekubuka lokuthi ngukuphi lapho khona ke maswati akutawufuna ukuthelekelelwe khona ngato ke imali kuye bese kubangilapho ke indvuna yelitiko ke letemafa umhlonishwa Neal Rijkenberg achamuka ayetothula ke maphakelo akhe kukhombisa lokuthi ingabe vele ayacondzana yini noma yatikhulumisa yini letinye ke tidzingo letikhonjwe ke nguye ke umholi walo ke live sikulelo luku sikuleso ke sigaba maswahla mahle kakhulu kade ngekuthi siyafisa nekuthi ke emaswati singumsakazi EswatiniTV akwati ke kubona lokho ukuthi vele mbambamba umnyaka wanga 2022 kuya ke 2023 ku financial year usiphathelene sitabeke sisakada sila e-studio siphethe ke labo ke labathathe tindzabeni ngetemnotho netindzaba ke tekubuka nje ukuthi tindzaba tetimali ke dabiwa ke kanjani siyaphinze ke sibeke nalabo ke labatinde khona ke eParliament la kwenteka khona ke lomsebenzi insatheli yethu ke LinkedIn Gule nalamanye ke ma-journalists atabe akhona ke eParliament kuthebula leyo nkulumo nekukhulumisana ke nebahlonishwa nemalunga eParliament etigabeni letahlukahlukene kuthola ke ema reactions nemivo yabo kodwa ke lomuhla kuloku ke indvuna isengakafika eParliament kusalungiselelwa ukuthi ingene ke eParliament itawethula ke emaphakelo ngidabeke ngihledi e-studio khona ke embabane kukhulumisa nje ukuthi ngabe vele sichamuka kuphi umnotho wethu ke umeke kanjani itheni indvuna ke eminyakeni lophelile itheni imbube yemhlaba mayivula ke eParliament nekunikhumbuta kunivetela leto ke ticephu lapho khona sicabanga ukuthi ke indvuna itawuthatha khona noma kumbe ihambe icinise khona emagameni ayo ke ingonyama inkosi Mswati wesithathu ngidabeke ngihledi ke naye la Themba Inkosi Dube lo i-financial analyst lo sita kakhulu ke kuthola ke imibiko yetimali nesimo semnotho ukuthi ke simeke kanjani ngidaphinze ke ngikhulumisane ke la njengengcenye yelibandla lesinalo lamuhla ngudokotela Chongwa wenhlangano le yatiwa kakhulu ngekuthi ke iSouthern Africa Research Foundation for Economic Development iSAFRED sebavele ke bakhona ke e-studio kodwa nje ngidaweni lasendvulelo sami la ngekucocisana ke la naThemba Inkosi Dube Nyamatane angikubingelele ngikuphe nethuba lekuvusela eMaswati
Angibonge John ngikuvusele nawe ngiphinze ngivusele sive sengonyama nawo onke eMaswati
sibonga kakhulu Nyamatane ngisengevele ngibalulile Nyamatane lokho ukuthi siselangende elikhulu mawubuka kumbe ma national activities labakhona kube kuye kube nekuvula kweParliament kube ke ne budget speech kube nemikhosi yelive lefaka ekhathi ke lama cultural events kungaba bugano kungaba ke incwala naleminye umhlanga naleminye imikhosi lebakhona kodwa i-budget speech is also one of the very most important national activities in our calendar engabe kubangwa yini lokho Nyamatane
I-budget speech imqoka kakhulu ngoba yonke lemikhosi loyibalako nayo isebenzisa yona imali so kumqoka lokuthi live libe nendlela lelihlela ngayo ukuthi imali siyayisebenzisa kanjani ingena kanje isebenze kanjani ngilenvo lokumqoka kanje kakhulu ngebudget speech ngiyona mgogodla ukuthi live lingahamba libheke kuphi ngoba noma ungahlela noma uhlola ekhaya kakho John uhlela wati ukuthi esibhajini kunamalini ugaze kusingenele enganani ugaze kusiphumele enganani kanjalo nelive liyadzinga kwati ukuthi imali engenako ingaka bese ke siyahlela inganothi khanza kumbe seyingena entweni letingakadzingeki noma seyisebenziseka ngendlela lengakafanele ngoba sidinga ukuhlela khona kodwa nawe ungakahleli ukhanza bese igcina kumbe ingakendi lobe kufanele sikwendeke kani kuyi priority noma ke kumcoka event
just like the speech from the throne national budget even it draw interest from a lot of stakeholders, including mass media entities like ourselves, EswatiniTV, the print media and the likes. Kubangwa yini Nyamatane njengoba sikhulumisa lokuthi lamaphakelo la indvuna itabe ikhomba lokuthi litiko lelinguthi linikwa imali lengaka kumbe nalamanye kumbe ama areas lapho khona kumbe ama programs ahulumende la khona. Kubaluleke ngani ukuthi sibe part of what is happening today, just like it is important for the nation to listen to the speech from the throne.
Kuyinvo lengumgogodla noma lekhomba ukuthi live libheka nguphi. Ngalamanye mavi ngathi kunangabe ukhanyisa lithoshe ebusuku ukuthi siyale. Kusho ukuthi ngiyona invo lekhombisa ukuthi live umgomo walo noma ke la libheka khona kule. So ngalamanye mavi usuke akhomba indlela lo mholo ukuthi sibhekele lenzaba nje ye King's speech from the throne ikhomba ukuthi live kufuna liconzise nako kahle kube besingase seminar organization ukukhuluma liphupho noma ke ivision ukuthi sibheka kuphi kulomnyaka lokutawuholela live phambili.
Ngiyabona Nyamatane siqhamuka esikhathini lapho khona kusukela nga2019 makucala umkhuhlane weCovid-19 kwaba ngathi nje indvo encane itawuphelela khona le kuboshayina sibonile ama consequences noma kumbe impact yawo umkhuhlane weCovid-19 eminyakeni wanga2021 lapho khona live belisathi lethula wona lamaphakele. So many things happened. We lost our head of government in the late former Prime Minister Honorable Mandvulo Dlamini, and so many other high profile individuals including cabinet ministers left the country. You know, this speaks to the devastating effect of COVID-19 and what it has done generally to our economy at a global scale. Angathi lokuthi namuhla mangabe singathi senda emaphakelo Nyamatane mawucabanga le spirit makumbe mawubuka ngewakho umuvo esinjani spirit kulabo kumbe labase cabinet, sinjani spirit emaswatini, sinjani spirit kuma stakeholders in terms of what this budget really means, because sithi swethula lamaphakelo but kunanayi into nanayo lesishikashikako lesithi nimbana namhla ngoba sithi inconywana kunayitolo kodwa uyawukhanza ukuthi lama consequences zayo noma kumbe the impact yayo on the ground vele kukhulu okufuna ukuthi kwendiwe. Lamaphakelo lawo ngabe asibeka kusiphi spirit and what to expect as the minister is going to be delivering his remarks today.
Ngiyabonga John. Wakhuluma indzaba lebhlungu kakhulu lebe indzaba ye pandemic ye COVID-19 ibe nemthelela nokuthikameta kakhulu emave umhlaba ngiqale nomhlaba wonke jikelele la kangwane ke njengoba nalo lisemhlabeni likasali ngaphandle. Kunengi kakhulu lokonakele noma ke lokuthikametekile emabhizinisini. Nasingabuketa nje kancane nayicala i-pandemic kwaqala ngathi kuthiwa abantu yabo 3 weeks kwashona phasi. Sibonile amabhizinisi avalwa, sibonile abantu baphelelwa imisebenzi, sibonile imarket ihamba into leyendekile kwaqale kwehla inzengo ya oil yathi yayofika ngaphasi kwabo 20 yasisuka phinze yakhuphuka kenyalo seyakhuphuka so yadula petrol phinze futhi kwaba nalokunengi lokwenteka nje ke emhlabeni wonke jikelele. Ndawucala ngibuke lokuthi lokwentekile nje nyalo lesikubonako ngicala ndawufuna kubuya nje la ekhaya eSwatini. Invo lesikhathata kakhulu noma ke lekhona ngifuna nje kungakafiki kumbe inombolweni letikhunyana nawuya nje edolobheni nyalo nje mina noma uye ngelunch uyawubona umehluko
in terms of the economic
activity. Ubona nje edolobheni kushaya umoya ngathi iSunday kukusekhathi neliviki after lunch ngike ngahamba la edolobheni nga 10 to 2 ngasikhathi kungafiki COVID ngaleso sikhathi leso ubona abantu ma white collar people abasebentako bakhuphuka sebabuyele emahhovisi netimoto setiyaphithitela uyabona lo ubuyale ungena emsebenzini, but that is no more there in the country. Noma ungayedolobheni kushaya umoya i-concern leyo from us lesibuka temnotho ukuthi kusho ukuthi ibusiness ithikametekile kakhulu.
So kumanje Nyamatane ungakachazi kangakanani ngiyasibonga lesithombe losineketa sona kuyafuna sivusele laba labase Parliament Nyamatane utawuqhubeka usiphe lokho lesithombe leso ukuze maswathi njengoba ngibudile lokuthi kubaluleke ngani ukuthi abe ingcenye lokuthi abe lala sikhona khona namuhla ahlale phansi lawo la khonako lokuhle ke maswati akithi kwekuthi ke umsakado uyasakada ku channel 286 6 on DSTV. We are sakada kusigujana. We are also live on YouTube and we are also live on the EswatiniTV app. Ngilapho khona ke maswati angakhona ukubona khona konke lokho lokwendekako. You don't need to be at home. We are going to be crossing over to our correspondent in Lobamba lapho khona ke kunentatheli yethu Ntjintja. Lotasichazela ukuthi sinjani ke simo nokuthi sibheke ukuthi ke uhlelo lalomuhla lihambe kanjani. Ntjintja angikubingelele ngikuphethe thuba lekuvusela eMaswati.
Sithatha kumuntu lensambo noma awusibutele la. Sithatha kumuntu noma bavele nje kucela. Bukali asekuvusele sikwamukele langeni lomuhla ngilesilanti insuku tingamashumi nesiphohlongo inyanga yendlovana ngomnyaka wa 2018 sikwemukela nje nasi la indasi kaLobamba eParliamentary labheka ukuthi ke kube nemsebenzi omkhulu khona lokuthula kwemaphakelo elive leSwatini neminyaka wa 2022 2023 libito lami Ntjintja.
Sikuvusele mbukeli libito lami nginginelisiwe ngwakandla ngamandla njengoba sekashidwe umlingani sibheke kona ukuthi indvuna ilitiko letemafa iteto wethula emaphakelo kanzi nje Ntjintja siyakhumbula ukuthi indvuna amaphakelo ayo mhlawumbe esine lawa lapho khona sibuka khona ukuthi engabe live litawumanjani live litawusebenta kanjani Ntjintja.
Bengiba naso lesifiso sekuthi sesimuve minister kuthini ingabe do ever get to a point la usikhona I'm used to this thing lo njoba usho singiminyaka wakho yesifolo as minister of finance atawuthula ibudget labanye bo minister baphambili bokhanza singelanga leli akakhoni nekulala usabuka lithi nombolo takhe ukuthi sesengito yini ukuthi yena ngabe kunjani base yakhumbula ukuthi eminyakeni lophelile insuku bethi ngi26 enyangeni yandlovana nakathula emaphakelo eminyaka wa 2021 2022 esibhekeleke nalomhla la kulawo maphakelo lawo Nelsiwe ngiyakhumbula ukuthi wethula emaphakelo a 24 billion emalangeni. I don't expect ukuthi atawehla kakhulu noma inyuke kakhulu. I think more or less the same figure namhla ngicabanga ukuthi sizabe solo sihambe khona.
Sibheke lokho Ntjintja sike saxoxisana nayo indvuna yetemafa ngaphambilini sibuta nje ukuthi engabe ku budget imbukeli kutawuhamba kanjani la ichaze khona ukuthi awu lelilanga leli akubi ilanga mhlambe lelibalula nje navele kuhlala khona lokuthi emaphakelo sekabhekekile ngicabanga ukuthi naye nakacetha lamuhla kutawuthi hemu indzaba lenye ke Ntjintja lesikayibuka sibhekile ukuthi indvuna ilitiko letemafa lamhla yini mhlambe letayibuka ngitiphi mhlambe tinhlangothi letatibuka kakhulu sibhekile health ngoba phela solo ukhona umkhuhlane iCovid-19 sibhekile iagriculture sibhekile indzaba yeinfrastructure Ntjintja indzaba dabo trade sibukile nalapha
ngiyakhumbula ukuthi eminyakeni lophelile indvuna nayo ethula lawo maphakelo iyaveta lo ukuthi ifocus lenkulu iyaba kuyo the health sector especially around the issue of drugs kuthi bawuthenga lawo ma drugs lawo sibonile vele ibhedlela telive kuye khanze ukuthi iba khona lensayeya ukuthi kushode imithi ngiyathemba lo ukuthi iyaphinzana lapho ivele ne saya lenkulu ku education. I think nasikhumbula kahle Nelsiwe ku budget ya last year education got a bigger chunk of the budget.
Yes, education Ntjintja yathola imali lenga 3.4 billion emalangeni kwase kuthi litiko letempilo lona lathola 2.4 billion emalangeni lokusho kona ukuthi uhulumende lamatiko lawa ngiwona vele awabuke kakhulu kepha ke sibhekile ngoba ndvuna nkulu ushito naye ukuthi imigwaqo lapha eveni ayisiko le kahle sibhekile ukuthi i Ministry of Public Works nayo kube khona lokukhundlanyana lekutholako
okusisi la iParliamentary njena ayafika emalunga eParliamentary ayangena netindvuna nathi letitsite nathi tiyangena ngiyabona nje indvuna yaka commerce mancoba khumalo nanayo sayivele ikhona la iParliamentary kulungiselela wona lo msebenzi lekubheka usina lokungenani ube uqalile ngensimbi yelishumi lomhla ekseni kanti ke njengoba kule budget lephelile nje yaminyaka lophelile ngiyakhumbula ukuthi indvuna yayithinza nenzaba yema taxes ukuthi angeke aze enyuke kangakanani but I think lenye indzaba lenkulu masakho receipts washo ukuthi atawehla nasibuka le covid kuvalwa kwemagede Nelsiwe bantu bebangakhona ukuhamba yes labo laba trader ko behamba but iqiniso lethi covid iyawa affect tell Masako receipts, don't you think?
Iyawa affecta kakhulu LinkedIn njengoba indvuna yetikolete emafike yachaza vele ngaphambilini ukuthi ngeminyaka ayehla kanti futhi atawukwehla nakulomnyaka nayibuka usathinza nje indzaba ye trade inhlangano lebuke kuhlanyela imali noma ke batshala imali lapha eveni kulo January nje beyithi itawubuka ukuthi engabe I-trade emkhathini welive leNdiya live leNingizimu Afrika ingaba njani ichazileke ukuthi ngeminyaka wa 2020 LinkedIn emkhathini welive leSwatini neLendiya imali leyahamba noma leyasebenza ku trade beya lapha kubo 40 million emalangeni iSouth Africa yona besibo 20 billion emalangeni siyabona ukuthi litiko laka trade liyasebenza vele liyaqinisekisa ukuthi emaswati kuba khona la kwendako kuba khona live leSwatini lelikuzuza especially because besibuke kakhulu ukuthi live leSwatini selitawuba ku export based kulamalanga
Bongosi nembala tindvuna ke tiyafika I'm hoping ukuthi indvuna letawehla ngiyo indvuna yeTemafa Rijkenberg the minister is here I will quickly get a comment from him before he gets inside parliament. Minister, a very good morning to you. Did you have enough sleep?
Oh, I slept very well. Thank you very much. No, it was as the years go by, the stress levels get much better for the budget speech.
That's what we were talking about, saying this is your 4th year. You will be delivering the budget for the 4th year now.
Exactly.
Do you ever get to a point where you are going to say, no, I am used to this thing? No problem, bring it on.
Now, I'm not sure one gets used to it because there's always the pressure because you understand that the nation is looking and everything is on you. But at the same time, one does in the beginning when you're just not sure what is happening, how it works. You've got two stresses. You've got the speech and you've got the stress of the unknown. And the stress of the unknown is now not there anymore.
I don't want to divulge much on this budget because we are going to listen to you. But what can we expect, Minister?
Look, the theme of the budget, let me let you know what the theme is.
Yeah.
And that is that it's transformation through economic sustainability. So the idea is to say that even though we've got all sorts of issues in the country, which we'll address very clearly, but at the same time, things are not looking that bad. Things are actually looking better from a macroeconomic point of view. We are on a decent path at the moment. That's just a quick outline of the theme.
Minister, all the best.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Induna yeTemafa Rijkenberg in that bag, that's where the budget is. Siyova ukuthi ibudget lenganani nelisiwe so yasifuna John Press studio but you've heard the minister, things are not that bad.
Kuyawehlisa emaphaphu kakhulu LinkedIn ukuthi things are not that bad ngoba besibuka ukuthi mhlawumbe ngeCovid-19 ngeunrest mhlawumbe intfo ngeke mhlawumbe time kahle but emaphaphu ayehla LinkedIn nasiyiva indvuna yeTemafa isho njalo.
Asasenza bodet bongo sithi nyuse malakwane kuna John Perez studio.
Standard Bank. It can be. It all begins with a dream. Even in the middle of a pandemic, when so much has been lost and many hopes and dreams deferred, we still believe that new dreams can be realized. Even in tough times, hope can heal even the deepest wounds and see our country, its people, and the youth live to dream again. Because we believe that every great journey begins by taking that very first step. We invested 75,000 in Malangeni towards making sure that over 200 pairs of small feet can wear shoes to school and be allowed to chase their dreams. Because we believe in fueling tomorrow's dreams today, we invested 150,000 in Malangeni towards supporting the Junior Achievement National Program and the Enactus Program in 2021. Because we believe a healthy nation is a nation destined for greatness. On International Women's Day, 8 March 2021, we opened the door to a fully refurbished COVID-compliant ward for our mothers, our sisters, and our daughters. We invested 1.5 million in Malangeni in collaboration with the Resource Mobilization Committee towards the rehabilitation of the Raleigh Fitkin Memorial Female Ward. Because we believe that the future is in our hands and the wealth is in our soil, We are helping train women and the youth to realize their dreams. 500,000 in Malangeni was invested towards the purchase of 4 farming tunnels for the innovative Tunnel Agri Project in partnership with the Women Farmer Foundation and the United Nations. Because when we rebuild together, we can thrive even better than yesterday. We invested 9,000 facial masks to 4,500 students and teachers in 8 community schools. Sewing machinery to young female entrepreneurs, as well as welding tools and equipment to the School for the Deaf. All in partnership with the Royal Eswatini Sugar Corporation. Since 1998, Eswatini has banked on us to fulfill her dreams. Eswatini is our home, and because you can dream, you help us drive her growth. Together, Standard Bank, it can be. Wherever your dreams take you, we can make it easy for you to take care of those you left behind.
Allo?
Hey mkhulu,
Musa unkosi yami mfana wami nguwe.
ukufolile lokuncane.
Lokuku
Wona mkhulu kulapha ecingweni.
aso ubuke lapha uthi lomnakeni ukhona la kufakile lokuncane la licingweni.
Na imali mkhulu uyitfumelele nga unayo.
Awu ngiyabonga kakhulu mfana wami. Buka phela sengisitile le mali sengizawubhadalela lo dzathe wenu lesikolweni.
Nga unayo ungakhokha imali ku-ATM, uthenge gesi noma i-airtime, uphinze ukhone kubhadala nga-scan to pay. There you have it, the Unayo app. Balisela Unayo lomuhla mahala ha. Facata *334# or download the Unayo app via the Play Store, the App Store or the Huawei app gallery. Standard Bank, it can be. Standard Bank, it can be. Can be.
Angiphinze ngivuseleke eMaswati sizamsakadweni EswatiniTV enhlokodolobha eMbabane sisakada ke umsebenzi lapho khona ke indvuna yelitiko letemafa umhlonishwa Neal Rijkenberg atawetfula ke emaphakelo etimali iminyaka wanga 2022 kuya ke 2023 tintatheli tethu ke LinkedIn Gule kanye na Nelson Wendlangamandla sebavele ke basatisile ukuthi ingabe kubhekeke ukuthi kutawendeka kanjani seyivele ke ithelekile ke indvuna eParliament umhlonishwa Neal Rijkenberg. There are 2 fundamental statements he has made, one which gives the theme for his imminent speech in the next hour or so, where he says things are not looking bad from a macroeconomic perspective. Ngabe kusho kuthini logo, which is why sithi eMaswati akalalele so that at least athole lo muvo. And he's also saying i-theme ye-budget speech yakhe yalomnyaka noma yale nkulumo yalamaphakelo lekatawatfula ikhulumisa indzaba yokuthi transformation through economic stability. So vele ke ufikile Dr. Chongwa la lomunye ke wetati ke lesinato letihleli la kusichazela nje ukuthi ngabe kuhamba kanjani. Dr. Chongwa, a warm welcome and a very good morning to this session this morning.
Thank you so much, John, and I greet you, dear Maswati, who are participating in this program.
Of course, and I am lucky that I read an article you wrote in one of the national newspapers a few days ago. It must be this week actually, say maybe on a Monday, Tuesday, where you said, I think the minister needs to prioritize stabilizing the economy. And it's coming back today, speaking to our journalists in the House of Assembly, LinkedIn Gule, and is saying the theme for this year's parliamentary budget speech is transformation through economic stability. And I'm sure the two of you have somehow discussed the theme for this budget speech. What does transformation through economic stability mean, according to the Minister, Dr. Chongwa?
Basically, transformation talks about the paradigm shift. And on the other hand, stability talks about sustainability. Because we are looking forward to a situation whereby governments, Eswatini in particular, is going to overcome the challenge of uncertainty, which has been mainly caused by the global pandemic of COVID-19. Now, when we talk about transformation, we are basically talking about the paradigm shift. Basically, we're talking about behavioral change.
we have to revise various economic policies and principles. Let's take, for example, in South Africa, if you look at the South African framework, so strategic framework for fiscal development, they are also talking about the same language. And for us, we now need to move from consumption spending to investment spending. Because consumption spending and investment spending, these are two extremes when we talk about economic transformation and sustainability. So if we focus on investment, then we are going to have a ripple effect, which is a positive ripple effect in the short term as well as in the long term. And this is the only strategy that is going to help us to overcome the challenge of uncertainty, which, of course, COVID-19 has, brought to our economy and the global economy at large. So basically, that's just a nutshell of what this concept is. Otherwise, it is a very, very strategic concept. And only if all government structures can embrace it and innovatively apply it, then definitely we are going to rebound the economy as soon as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Chongwa. Uzamake usichazela Dr. Chongwa la indzaba yokuthi isho kuthini indvuna mayithi manje simo semnotho asisiso ke lesibi njengoba ke emaphakelo ayo yewakhekeleketi kwemgogodla lothi economic transformation through economic sustainability. Ingabe kusho kuthini lokho singakayi ke Parliament Thembinkosi Dube longe financial analyst lesileti naye la uvetile ukuthi lesimo semnotho lesikhona asisiso lesihle njengoba ke mawuhamba nasemadolobheni uyabona lokuthi kuncane lokwendekako lokukhombisa ukuthi bantu ngathi uthi ke banayo imali noma kumbe disposable income. We just want to look at the past 3 years in terms of how our economy has been looking like. Kusiniketa ke sithombe sekuthi vele kuliqiniso into ukuthi sichamuka esigabeni lapho khona lesimo bezivele singasiso kahle. How has our economy been performing in the past 3 years? Just so eMaswati can have an outlook of how things will be in this year's in this year's budget speech that the minister will be presenting in a short while. This is an indication, Dr. Chongwa, that shows us where we have been in the year 2019-2020 financial year, where our total expenditure was standing at 21.83 billion. What does this really say to us in terms of where we were at the time and where we are right now?
Well, basically, our total expenditure had increased from the previous year between 2019 and 2018 towards 2020, and mostly it was based on capital expenditure. And we have seen a lot of transformation, activities, especially on the infrastructural development. Looking at the Lubombo region, Manzini region, as well as Chisereni region, if I'm not mistaken, there have been a lot of capital projects that came into place, and that was basically the strategy before the advent of the COVID-19, which basically destabilized the strategic national development economic strategy. So basically on the expenditure part, by that time it was basically justifiable on the element that it really focused on the issues of infrastructural development. That is why we had seen that increase between the year 2018 up to 2020.
Yeah. Nyamatane, you mentioned, I think, a short while ago, the issue of how inflation is also a main factor to how we determine whether the economy is performing or not, And I think by mere observation, earlier, you can see, where are we in terms of the country's inflation and how that is eating into the pocket of consumers?
Ngiyabonga John. Inflation ibonakala nyalo seyiphinze iyakhuphuka. Kanike yaba nako kohlahla ngesikhathi se-COVID lo kwaba ke izathu letiningi letaba khona kumele singasichaza nyalo. Kodwa nyalo siyayibona iyakhuphuka lokusho ukuthi impilo noma ke cost of living ayisafanani nasesikhathini lesedlulile. Kusho ukuthi nyalo kuletinto lobo uthenga bathi ngalesi economy basket of commodities lobo uyithenga ngale basket nyalo sothenga lokuncane. Kusho ukuthi imali yakho ayisanawo lamandla lebeyinawo before i-purchasing power yawo. So lokho kusibeka esimeni lesibucayi nasekuthenini indlela umuntu lasebenzisa ngayo imali ibe ngilecaphelelekile. Lokho ukhanza ukuthi kunemthelela kulamanye amabhizinisi more especially la lafaka i-leisure sector, I'll say entertainment sector, ngoba kuze uspend imali for entertainment kuze ngiyodla restaurant ngisuke ngifuna ukuchaza ifamily yami. So nangabe sekubonakala simo sosiyabhetha ngiyabuka lokhu ukuthi ngicala kuphi, nangicala ke ngakhona kani nakhona i-sector economy nayo lefuna kusustain noma ke kusitakala kusupport akusenzelo gama lelo. So ukhanza ke ukuthi leto tingcenye temnotho diyathakamedeka kakhulu esimeni lesinje. Ngitona nje ticala kahle entertainment nama restaurant.
Yeah. Lokumcoka ukuthi masikhulumisa indaba ye national budget, we need to integrate or to disintegrate the information to such an extent that liswati nalelo swati liyakhona lokuconza ukuthi lamaphekelo ukuthi asho ukuthini. Sikhonda sikucetha ke kubona ke i-expenditure iminyaka nga 2020 yanga 2019-2020, but this is what our total expenditure looks like in the year 2020-2021, Dr. Chonga. If we look at the change or the difference or the margin between 2019-2020 to what it was in 2020, in 2020-2021, 24.08 billion. Now, Tim, because I need you to help me understand, what does this really mean? Like you are saying, does this really change the consumption patterns of the general Eswati, of the stakeholders? When they see figures like this, do they need to be excited to say, oh, in 2019-2020, it was 19 billion, now it's 24 billion. What does this really mean to the average Eswati and to the different sectors of our economy?
Ngoba sesabuka i-expenditure, akusito nje ngifuna ukuthi sijabulise leto. If it was the income, was that. But other than inflation, lo contribute like asashito lokunye Dr. Chunga ukuthi kufaka kathi i-capital investment lebe khona. Kunenzaba ye exchange rate. Nayo iyangena lapha because sine tikweleti noma ke sinema obligations indaba si public debt lesiyibhadalako le external, mostly le based emandleni elangeni na ulibuka neldola noma lidollar is the base currency lesetshenziswako. So le expenditure na ulibuka i-performance yelangeni kuleminyaka lephelile nayo lehlile. So lokwehla kwalo kuyasho ukuthi ngoba bona nabathite ubhadala $1,000 kuthi le currency yakho iphasi noma injani kufuna wena still ufake imali kuze wakhe lo 1000. So kuyasishaya ke naloko nakufika isikhathi se public debt le external ukuthi live kulimade. Kungako esikhatsini lesinengi na unganaka nje hulumende ube sesoba ne move ukuthi a support i-local debt ngema treasury bills. Na ungabuya ube suvula le size yabo nama bonds kuzama ukuthi akhone ukuthola because lele local itele exchange rate effect kanzi iyakhona ukuthi live isimamisa.
We sithathe nje siwelela khona ke Parliament eMaswati lamahle uyasichazela enyamatane la ukuthi ngitiphi letinye tinvo leti influencer lokuthi lamaphakelo ethu ama kanjani nekuthi kulilimata kangakanani ke live ikakhulukazi ke mangabe kwehla ke tinvo leti fayekhathi kubo exchange rate. We're also speaking about yes expenditure, but there's also an important element to expenditure, which is capital expenditure. What does that really mean to Eswati? We are going to be talking about that shortly when you're coming from the Parliament. LinkedIn kule kuchubeka ne Parliament njengoba ke ukuthi indvuna kumbe itawugcina ke imile ke podium kuqala ke ukuthula ke inkulumo yayo.
Parliament umsebenzi ke sevele yaqala njengomcondzisi wezinkulumo sangenile nje lekutawendeka manje utawuvele abite clerk atokwato ukuthi abite athule i-order paper elisuku. The only item on the order paper emisebenzini lenjengalena kuba ngiko kuthulwa kwemaphakelo. Clerk avele abite induna itemafa ukuthi sengawethula ke emaphakelo eminyaka yotimali owa 2022 2023 kepha ke kuyendeka kakhanze ukuthi before lokho kube khona abahloni lebafuna kusho lokuthide endlini bavumelekile ukuthi banga reza lawo ma motions noma ke banga buta lokho lebafuna ba clarify lekona angakasukumi minister. But nje the only item lebakhona kule order paper misebenzini lefana nalena kuba nje ngilo msebenzi ukuthi indvuna ithule lawo maphakelo enike lokunye lesingachacisa ngalo ukuthi aka debatewa namhlanje indvuna itawethula ibese umcondzisi wezinkulumo uyayigucisa indlu. Bayawubuya ke ngelinye ilanga le kayawulibeka umcondzisi wezinkulumo labayawubuya ke bato debater ona la maphakelo. Singangena nje ngakhathi endlini sive nomcondzisi wezinkulumo.
On that ungavela office umcondzisi sibone singakusitha kanjani but kanye Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, the Eswatini House of Assembly order paper number 2 for Friday the 18th February 2022. We have tabling of reports. We have 6 reports. The first one is the budget estimates for the years from 1st April 2022 to 31st March 2025. The second one is a budget speech 2022 for the financial year ending 31st March 2021. The fourth one is the establishment register supporting the estimates of public expenditure for the financial year 2022-2023. The fifth one is the report of the Auditor General for the financial year ended 31st March 2021. And the sixth, last one, is the report of the Eswatini Revenue Services for the financial year ended 31st March 2022. All reports tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
The Honourable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With your permission and the leave of the House, may I please table the budget estimates for the years 1st of April 2022 to 31st of March 2025, the budget speech for 2022, the Treasury Annual Report for the financial years ending 31st of March 2021, Establishment Register supporting the estimates of public expenditure for financial year 2022-2023, the report of the Auditor General for the financial year ended 31st of March 2021, and lastly the report of the Eswatini Revenue Services for the financial year ending 31st of March 2021.
I proceed, Honourable Minister, to table the reports. Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, we move to the tabling of bills. We have 3 bills to be tabled. The first one is the Appropriation Bill 2022, Bill number 4 of 2022. The second one is the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2022, Bill number 5 of 2022. The third and last one is the African Development Bank Support for Economic Recovery and Inclusive Growth Phase 1, Loan Bill number 3 of 2022. All bills tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
The Honourable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With your permission, leave of the House, may I please table the Appropriation Bill 2022, Bill number 4 of 2022. Can I also table the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2022, Bill number 5 of 2022, as well as the African Development Bank Support for Economic Recovery and Inclusive Growth Loan Bill, Bill number 3 of 2022. All 3 of these bills come with a certificate of urgency, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Minister, you may proceed to table the bills. Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, under orders of the day, we have a government bill, the Appropriation Bill 2022, Bill number 4 of 2022, first reading. A bill presented with a certificate of agency and piloted by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Honourable Minister for Finance, when is the second reading?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With your permission, leave of the House, may it please be forthwith.
Honourable members, it has just been moved that the second reading be forthwith. Those in favour should say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, the Appropriation Bill 2022, Bill number 4 of 2022, second reading. We have a budget speech presented by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Honourable Minister of Finance, you may now present your budget speech.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, now I ask permission to possibly remove my mask while I say the budget speech. You're probably going to be more than an hour and saying it might not be clear, number one. Number two, it's quite tough to talk for that long with a mask on, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, the Honourable Minister for Finance is requesting to remove So the question is, those in favour should say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honourable Minister, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you very much to the House for permission to be able to speak freely as is. Mr. Speaker, it's my honour to present the National Budget Speech for the year 2022-2023, my fourth budget speech presented to this 11th Parliament sitting of this esteemed House. May I please start with reading a scripture taken from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Amen. Mr. Speaker, as we enter the third year of the COVID-19 pandemic, we look back at one of the most difficult years for our nation. Not only did emerging countries, such as the Kingdom of Eswatini, bear a disproportionate social and economic burden due to the third and fourth waves of this global pandemic, but we suffered tragic loss of life and destruction of property from unprecedented domestic civil unrest. No person, family, or community has been left untouched by these events. We mourn our shared loss at every life lost, at every livelihood impacted, and at every business damaged. We as a nation have been grieving. The health, economic, and social status of our kingdom have been severely impacted, causing immense hardship and pain. Yet, despite these seemingly insurmountable challenges, eMaswati have continued to show their characteristic resilience. Mr. Speaker, we can never drop our guard to the pandemic, and we should never surrender the hard-won progress that we have made as a nation in responding to COVID-19. However, the tide is slowly turning, and it's now time to learn to live side by side with this virus and return to normalcy. Echoing His Majesty's speech from the throne, let me take this opportunity to encourage eMaswati to continue to take advantage of the vaccines as they continue to be our best line of defense. As the world opens up and this disease is demoted from a public health crisis to a manageable risk, we must embrace this new normal and take every action within our power to keep ourselves and our families safe and return to a sustainable growth path. Mr. Speaker, our current economic and social reality focus what we need to achieve in order to build a country and society that we all strive for. We acknowledge at our disposal, and we need to urgently prioritize how these resources are allocated. We recognize that we could have done better. Due to sustained lack of maintenance and unseasonably high rainfall, our roads are now in a critical state. Sufficient job opportunities have not been provided for our youth. We have continued to experience shortage of medicines in our clinics and hospitals. We are not delivering and educating future generations for the task at hand. Our general service delivery needs radical improvement. If we are to continue to build towards the vision of a first world and developed country. Mr. Speaker, we are in collective pain as a country and nation. The civil unrest has led to a loss of life, damage of property and infrastructure and economy will severely undermine our collective efforts to rebuild what has been lost. These efforts to rebuild only add to the long list of challenges that this government has been working to mitigate. as a nation founded on peace, stability and the rule of law, His Majesty, in partnership with the private sector and our development partners, has launched a 500 million reconstruction fund for the damages to property suffered during the civil unrest. We would encourage all qualifying affected people and companies to apply so that we can restore confidence in our economy and create jobs that are so desperately needed. Furthermore, His Majesty has called on all eMaswati to constructively engage in dialogue within the framework provided by our Constitution and Sibaya, which is the ultimate consultative and decision-making forum of all eMaswati, as our society and has the opportunity for this dialogue to resume. Government has set aside 22 million emalangeni in this year's budget for the Sibaya National Dialogue. We should also celebrate our successes, provide a clear and sustainable fiscal path forward, and create hope for our collective future as a united nation. This administration inherited a flailing economy, coming from a weak fiscal position, and the year 2022-20 another tough year for us as we continue on our fiscal consolidation path. We have successfully addressed a number of critical issues. Government spending has improved through the restructuring of CTA. The Palala Fund has been refocused on growing local domestic capacity to address healthcare so that we can reduce our dependence on this fund. We have also started to issue lump sum contracts instead of remeasurable contracts on our capital projects. We continue to prioritize the repayment of arrears. We are reducing our dependence on debt and are now approaching a sustainable path. On the recommendation of the IMF, we have tightened fiscal controls to reduce ministries from overspending on the approved budgets. Mr. Speaker, the theme of this year's budget speech is transformation through economic sustainability. The work that's been done to transform our governance and financial position as we embark on a more sustainable path as an economy, as we continue to build on the progress made over the past 3 years. It's hard work, and we believe there's no magic solutions. But by addressing leakages and fixing economic policies that have failed over years of misuse and inefficiency, we will see our economy and the welfare of our nation thrive. Mr. Speaker, the global economy rebounded in 2021 following a contraction of 3.1% in 2020. This recovery was driven by the reopening of the global economy as worldwide vaccination initiatives intensified and the provision of unprecedented economic and fiscal stimuluses by central banks. This momentum in global recovery has weakened recently owing to the continued resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite this, the IMF projects global growth of 5.9% and 4.4% in 2021 and 2022 respectively. The IMF projects that economic growth in the sub-Saharan Africa region will rebound by 2021 from a contraction of 1.7% in 2020, in line with the anticipated global recovery. In 2022, economic activity in the region is forecasted to grow modestly at 3.7%. South Africa's economy was expected to grow by 5% in 2021. However, as a consequence of the civil unrest experienced in July, the IMF has since revised South Africa's growth to 3%. Nonetheless, the South African economy is expected to grow to a modest 2.7% in 2022. In line with the global developments, the domestic economy reflects significant signs of recovery. Following a contraction of economic activity of 1.9% in 2020, economic growth is expected to rebound by 5.9% in 2021, which is revised up from the initial estimate of 1.3%. Mr. Speaker, this is something that we should celebrate. Notwithstanding the recurrence of the COVID-19 waves, coupled with the unprecedented civil unrest that has dampened higher prospects of growth as activities in sectors such as tourism, wholesale, and trade remain subdued. The medium-term outlook remains uncertain for the domestic economy. Plan for the period 2021-2022 to 2023-2024 financial years is expected to dampen growth in sectors linked to government operations, such as public administration, construction, wholesale and retail, financial services, and professional services. Even though the predictions for outer years remain uncertain, there are a number of reforms, including the issuance of mining licenses, post-COVID recovery plan, and a number of projects with significant growth implications that will likely put our growth numbers up, that will push our growth numbers up in the medium term. Domestic headline inflation is projected to remain stable at 3.9% in 2021, reflecting contained inflationary pressures in the period. As of November 2021, the rate averaged 3.7% relative to 3.8% in November 2020. The drivers in this period were food inflation, alcohol and tobacco, clothing and footwear, as well as recreation and culture, which were on an uptick in the period due to external pressures emanating from increases in global oil prices and constraints in the global supply chains. Over the medium term, inflation is likely to pick up due to the fact that crude oil has almost doubled in the past year, driving up energy costs. In sub-Saharan Africa, rising food prices will continue to increase inflationary pressures. The balance of payments is the difference between our import and export revenues relating to trade with other countries. Preliminary estimates for the country's balance of payments for 2021 indicated that we exported more than we imported. This is called a surplus in the current account. The surplus for 2021 was 1.9 billion emalangeni, declining from a surplus of 4.4 billion emalangeni in 2020. It is our policy to be an export-driven economy, which will mean that there are more foreign exchange flows into the country than outflows. However, it's important to note that we continue to import more services than we export. Therefore, there was a deficit in the services account of 2021 of 2.5 billion emalangeni. As this forms part of the total balance of payment calculations, we still remain in a surplus. South Africa remains the main source of service imports for the country. At the onset of the pandemic, the Central Bank of Eswatini undertook an aggressive, preemptive response by reducing interest rates to mitigate the economic effects of the pandemic. In an effort to contain inflation and provide continued support for the economy, the Central Bank, through the Monetary Policy Consultative Committee, maintained the discount rate at an historic low level of 3.75% through 2021, down from 6.5% in March 2020. This meant that it's becoming cheaper to borrow money from financial institutions, leading to an increase in economic activity. In January of 2022, the central bank raised the discount rate from 3.75% to 4%. As the economy reopened, remain a consideration point for the monetary policy stance. As a response, the central bank will likely maintain the accommodative and stable monetary policy stance as long as it's necessary to revive growth and mitigate the impact of the pandemic on the economy, while ensuring price stability in 2022. A concept used to measure the amount of money, broad money supply. In 2021, the broad money supply increased due to the pickup in economic activity and enhanced credit extension to the private sector. Consequently, during the first 11 months of 2021, broad money supply grew by 14.2% on average, compared to 5.2% average growth over the same period in 2020. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, the country's growth stably enhanced by loan funds sourced from development partners and foreign exchange net flows from trade with local banks. As at October 2021, gross official reserves amounted to 9.7 billion emalangeni, marking a significant 10.3% improvement compared to the same period in 2020. At this level, the 2021 We wish to extend our gratitude to the Central Bank of Eswatini for maintaining healthy reserves. Mr. Speaker, the pandemic has continued to present a challenging operating environment for the banking sector, and risks to financial stability remain elevated, especially from credit and operational risks. The adverse effect of the pandemic on domestic economic activity affected the financial condition of households and businesses, with a knock-on effect on credit and operational risks in the banking system. Despite this, the financial sector remains resilient to the economic disruptions associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. This has largely been possible by the monetary policy and macroprudential policy measures. The Central Bank of Eswatini decisively intervened with monetary and macroprudential policy measures aimed at safeguarding financial system stability, as well as supporting economic recovery. Measures were implemented to alleviate the impact of the pandemic on supervised financial institutions, giving permission to these institutions to grant credit pandemic, reducing the minimum liquidity requirements by 5% for all banks that may come under liquidity distress, deferral of payments of dividends, and promotion of digital and cashless payment platforms. Consequently, the measure supported the banking sector to build up and maintain ample capital and liquidity buffers, over and above the statutory minimum requirements, to cushion them against the emerging risks during the pandemic period. This provides for confidence and certainty in our economy. The Central Bank of Eswatini stands ready to take action in order to address any emerging risks to financial sector stability. Mr. Speaker, fair competition is an important feature in creating a business climate that fosters increased investment, efficient markets, and improved consumer confidence. The Eswatini Competitions Commission continues to use competitive law and policy as a tool to support economic recovery and the long-term sustainable growth of the kingdom. In line with this pursuit, during the 2021-2022 financial year, the Competition Commission reviewed and approved 17 mergers in forestry, financial services, insurance, telecommunications, retail, construction, health services, and commercial property, amongst other sectors. The steady rise in merger notification signifies that companies continue to view Eswatini as an attractive investment destination with ample growth opportunities. New trade opportunities are being created for the business sector, namely the African Continental Free Trade Area and the Economic Partnership Agreement between SACU, Mozambique, the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. These trade agreements are now both operational. There is a new initiative to develop an e-commerce strategy for Eswatini with support from cooperating partners. The launch of the Eswatini and it's coming live in September 2020, has ushered in a new era of traders as they are now in a better position to access all trade-related information from one source. The Handicraft Department focuses on imparting skills to youth and adults to promote self-employment and job creation, capacitating handicraft producers in product development, standards and entrepreneurial skills allows producers to grow their businesses by producing export-ready goods. Government is in a process of establishing an electronic one-stop shop which will be hosted at RSTP. The one-stop shop will enable a number of services including company registrations, issuance of work permits, health inspections, labour compliance and registration of utilities including electricity, water and telecommunications to be done online. Government has continued to support the Cooperatives Initiative. It's currently engaged in a project with the Republic of China savings and credit cooperative organizations or societies. Government is constructing factory shells across the country. In this financial year, the factory shell construction shall entail the completion of the Kwamula factory shell, factory shell situated in the Jabulani area near Nhlangano. This huge factory will be finished at the same time as the Skunuza Road, along which it is located. Sector-led, which are expected to employ a further 3,000 people in this coming year. These projects include a renewable energy project through Asera, mining, manufacturing, retail, and agriculture. All of these projects originated from the post-COVID-19 recovery plan. The new mall in Manzini, at an estimated cost of over 2 billion emalangeni, is expected to start in this financial year. Another commercial development is expected to start construction near the new interchange, worth over 3 billion emalangeni. We are happy to note strong reinvestment initiatives in a number of large private companies, indicating remains strong. Government, through the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, in pursuit of its policies and programs in this medium term, is committed to create 9,000 jobs this coming year, whilst continuing to explore all avenues as we continue to grow a competitive and export-driven economy. Mr. Speaker, lifting the lockdown-related restrictions, combined with the favourable borrowing rates, created favourable conditions of private sector credit extension. Notably, annual growth in private sector credit averaged 9.3% between January and October 2021, compared to an average of minus 3.2% registered the previous year. Through the industrial infrastructure development programs, the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini continues to develop quality infrastructure to support industrialization. Improvements to the Ngwenya and Nhlangano industrial estates continue. In addition, the development of a privately owned industrial estate in Stegi will be commissioned shortly. We're in talks with the sugar industry to establish a sugar industrial estate near the airport in order to promote this industry as the risk of limited regional markets emerge. We are also encouraged by the developments of a private timber industrial park at Bunya that's envisaged to start this coming year as well. Mr. Speaker, there's a vital need to expand entrepreneurship in the Kingdom in order to boost economic growth, alleviate poverty, and increase development services with a strong focus on the facilitation of market and finance linkages. The Small Enterprise Development Company, referred to as SEDCO, continues to offer business coaching services to the Youth Fund beneficiaries. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the MSME sector's physical connectivity, but accelerated the need for the virtual and knowledge economy. To this end, online businesses are initiated. Initiatives to ensure MSME's transition to the digital space are currently being developed. Government has continued to pursue the incubation of businesses with 122 businesses occupying workshops at SEDCO estates, employing over 500 eMaswati. Through the financial assistance of 2.2 million emalangeni granted to Eswatini by the African Union Development Agency and the Spanish government, SEDCO successfully initiated the Business Incubator for African Women Entrepreneurs project. This project has come to an end, and the project has been fully transferred to the COMESA, Federation of Women in Business, Eswatini chapter. A poultry processing plant has been established at Hlatikulu with a capacity of processing 1,000 chickens per day. Government is pleased to announce that a total of 168 entrepreneurs are benefiting from the project. SEDCO, in partnership with other stakeholders, including COMESA Federation of Women in Business, eSwade, Eswatini Bank, and the Trade and Development Bank, continue to play a facilitative role in the operationalization of the woman-owned chicken abattoir. Government is currently in the process of reviewing the MSME National Policy of 2018, which is due for review in 2022. We are currently engaging development partners to assist in funding this initiative. The MSME finance